watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest now. Joining us is Lieutenant General Arun Sani, former Army Commander. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad is a defence analyst joining us. Major Gaurav Arya, retired defence analyst, is also with us. Abhijit Ayar Mitra is senior fellow at IPCS. Let me come across to you first, General Sani, and let me begin by asking you, what do you think is actually going on? You know, after suffering these massive defeats, after, the virtual meme fest that we've seen of the various bizarre statements coming out of Pakistan, now you have this reward for the army chief for actually losing the war. It couldn't get more ridiculous than this.
Madhav, firstly, good evening and good to be on your show. You're absolutely right. I think the preliminary inputs that you have given talks about the ludicrousity of this whole event that has happened in Pakistan. But leaving aside what is there, may I look at it and look at it from 2 or 3 issues that can be really flagged. One, of course, is the fact that there is this continuing narrative that they have won the war, which they've been talking about, knocking everything off, and including in the statement that has come out while appointing him as a Field Marshal, that he's done extremely well in this the Marke Haq operation, including this particular one which was called Bunyam Marsus. That's the one which he talks about on the 10th when they attacked our military targets, about 26 targets, including 15 airfields. No major damage, but yes, they did hit a few of them, which was accepted in the press and, of course, told by the DGMOs. So I think one is this continuing story of the narrative that we have done extremely well. We have belittled the Indian Armed Forces. We've been able to hit them. We've been able to destroy them. And so the general needs to be promoted to a Field Marshal. That is on that plane of activity. The second thing I think which you have to look at is this jihadi angle that has come out very prominently. Not only at the JEM cremation after Masood Azhar's family members, but you also saw the recent LET gentlemen who got assassinated by their own people somewhere in Karachi. Again, there was military people in uniform attending that particular funeral procession. And also the ISP are talking about a jihadi army. So I presume that the kind of Islamization and fundamentalism that has crept into the army, that it's calling itself not a professional army, but a jihadi army, has actually threatened the structures that exist, which are anyway very weak. So maybe it's stating and accepting that. And the third issue that can come in is that they were worried about a coup, and I presume Shahbaz Sharif, the present Prime Minister, has seen that if he's not on the right side of the army chief, I'm sorry, your future is very, very dim. And we have the living case of Imran Khan. So well, who's
securing whose future? Is it Shahbaz securing Munir's future? Is Munir's trying to secure Sharif's future? That's an open question at this point of time. And let me bring in Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad on that, if I may. Lieutenant General Prasad, what's your wager on that? Who's actually protecting whose seat and whose post?
Absolutely correct. I 100% agree with you. They're protecting each other's post. Now, let me make a few points. The first point is the Pakistan population, the people of Pakistan are quite fed up of the way the military is running. You saw what happened in the Imran Khan case, where they even surrounded the GHQ and one of the corps commanders had to run away. So the present situation is that the people in Pakistan are quite fed up the way the army is behaving. Secondly, if the present chief, Munir, decided to do a coup, it will be a major strategic wrong decision by him. The moment you have a military coup, the world powers are going to say it is no longer a democracy and we cannot give any support to it. The IMF will stop giving them money. So the facade of democracy has to be retained. Therefore, there has to be an elected government. So the elected government will continue with Shahbaz Sharif. I'm 100% sure of it. Just to save himself, Munir has told the government, you better promote me a Field Marshal, otherwise I will take over. Though he was never going to take over. He knows taking over is not a good idea for him. So he's told the Prime Minister, time is now, within the next 2 hours, I want you to promote me to Field Marshal, and that's it. So the conclusion is, This is an agreement which in one sentence beautifully explained, saving each other. The government is safe with Munir as the Field Marshal, and the Field Marshal is safe as the boss of the military. So the situation remains the same. The issue is that the world has to understand that Pakistan is actually not a democracy. It's a government run by the military, and all the funds that you give them from the IMF or wherever else are going to get diverted to the business that the military does believe. That is to say, reconstruct Bawalpur, reconstruct Mudir, give all the money to the terrorists to begin to resurface and to retrain and to rearm. That is what is going to happen.
Absolutely.
But the moment he said that, yes, I'm going to do a coup, it'll all going to stop. So, your first sentence explains whatever I've said.
Absolutely. In fact, Major Gaurav Arya, the point is that, they've not just suffered that battering, as far as their various Air Force stations are concerned. We've also seen the kind of ridiculous comments that have come in when they were asked tough questions. For instance, the Pakistan Air Force, and you saw what happened as far as that officer Aurangzeb Ahmed is concerned, center of gravity, asked a question on their air defense when it comes to surface and air-to-surface missiles. Again, says this is too complicated. I cannot explain it to you because we'll be boring the other journalists there. That kind of bizarre commentary coming in shows how battered they've been psychologically as well. So they desperately need to show that this has been a success.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Madhav. There are 2-3 things here. Only last year, the government said that the tenure of the army chief stands extended to 5 years, as against the earlier 3 years. And then they said, he could get a further extension of 5 years. Now, normally what we say in the Indian subcontinent and even in the UK is that a field marshal never retires. If you take all these things into consideration, you know where this thing is going, right? Asim Munir is here to stay for a very, very long time. That is one part of it. Secondly is that entire nation of Pakistan, actually, we have a habit in India of separating the people from the government because we don't think of them as being truly representative. While there may be people within Pakistan who do not agree with the government of Pakistan, a large majority of them are absolutely brainwashed and see the jubilation on the roads of Pakistan that we have won, we have defeated India, right? And nobody's asking for proof. Not one person is asking for proof. Everybody is celebrating. They're having the PSL, the army is out there in full strength, and they've actually managed to convince themselves. This is exactly what they did in 1965. They convinced their own countrymen that it was India who attacked Lahore. Nothing about Gibraltar, nothing about Run of Kutch, nothing at all, right? We won in 1971, but there was a conspiracy by the Indians and somehow, the tables were turned. We defeated the Indians in 1999 in Kargil, and India had to sue for peace. I mean, the images of Nawaz Sharif going and literally crawling before Bill Clinton have been wiped out of the Pakistani national subconsciousness. It's no longer there. So they are masters at narrative building. You have to understand the Pakistanis and never underestimate them. They may not know how to fight. They know how to tell a good story. And in this, you will have to accept that Pakistan has managed to tell, while you and I will not believe it, the world will laugh at them, and they're absolutely fine. The common Pakistani with less than minimal education believes them, and that entire population is highly, highly radicalized. That's what I wanted to say, actually.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, given the fact that I was just reading on this, Abhijit Mitra, he would be the only field marshal after Ayub Khan. And therefore, Asim Munir has, gotten a space which is, amongst an exalted, selected few in Pakistan. He's a bigger legend than perhaps even Musharraf or the other army chiefs before him.
Pakistan, Madhav, has this long history of failure reinforcement. Ayub Khan, Ayub Khan's command in World War II was leading the drama corps of the British Army. Now, what happens after that is, I don't know if you become Field Marshal for dramatics, but he was quite dramatic in the way he got rid of General Iskandar Mirza and self-proclaimed himself Field Marshal. So let us be clear what has happened here. We all know the real president and the real prime minister is Asim Munir, and he has given himself, Munir Awards, Munir Field Marshal title. But let's look at the operation itself, Operation Sindoor. Now let's take every Pakistani claim as absolute truth, that they absolutely crushed us and they downed 6 of our aircraft on the first day. Aircraft kisne giraya? That was the Air Force doing it. So it is the Air Chief Marshal who should be made Marshal of the Air Force. What does Munir have to do with aircraft? So
True.
this is, first of all, it's credit stealing. Second of all, Pakistanis generally do this, that it is only when they are very badly crushed that they give themselves these promotions to create a general public atmosphere that they have won. Remember, to this date, they don't accept they lost in 71. They claim in 71 they only lost in the Eastern Theatre. In the Western Theatre they won. 65, Ayub Khan actually passed it off as a great victory for Pakistan. It is celebrated today as the Defense of Pakistan Day. So in their history, and you know what happened after Kargil. Kargil is fresh in everybody's memory, where, absolutely no consequences. It was poor Nawaz Sharif who had to pay the price for Musharraf's misadventure.
Yes, yeah.
This is a sign of two things. One is that there is going to either be a coup and this man is going to take over, in which case Shehbaz Sharif is going to come crying like his brother Nawaz Sharif and tell us that more people were killed during Kargil than in the 65 and 71 war put together. Or he's going to basically last it out forever. But remember, there is a timeout for chiefs of army staff. Ever lasting in that position, it is 11 years. Either they are removed like Musharraf or they go up with a case of exploding mangoes like was the case with Ziaul Haq.
Absolutely. And in fact, Shehbaz Sharif has no option in this kind of situation, Lieutenant Sani, because he knows. He's seeing what's happening to Imran Khan, and that's a fate that he certainly wants to avoid. Either that or it's the same fate that his brother Nawaz Sharif has.
No, you're absolutely right. As I said, this current, just to draw a parallel to somebody said, it was in Ziaul Haq's time that the Islamization of the Pakistan army started in a major manner, where about 25% of the people were taken in who came in with credentials which talked about their teachings in madrasas and the inclination towards the more fundamentalistic thinking. And today, Asim Munir is an answer to that particular gentleman. The process started then, and you're seeing the manifestation today, where it's 100% transition that has happened. So I think the worrisome thing for India is that you've got a bit of a nutcase who's now going to be across the border for some time. There are no rules of game that engagement. You will find engagement being done on very, very frivolous manners. So I think we have to be very careful that this proxy war, which we want to defeat, new policy we have put in place, how are we going to be able to execute it in the future? And you're absolutely right, as what you said and what the general otherwise also mentioned, it's a tit for tat. Shahbaz remains in power, Nawaz is clean, the family continues with whatever they have to do in their family fortunes, the army continues to do everything. So it's hunky-dory, and the government functions, there's a democracy, you keep fibbing to the world, and your population suffers as it's going to suffer.
Yeah.
So that's what the outcome is.
But the whole point is it's such a charade because they're just surviving on international dole. How long will that dole survive? How quickly will it run out is a big question. But I want to just draw your attention to General Prasad as far as the statement that we just played out. He said that on the intervening night of May 9 to 10th and around 2:30 a.m., General Asim Munir called me that India has launched its ballistic missile, landed at Noor Khan base. He later says that he calls me when he was swimming. This is just a charade that's being propped up as if to show that the Prime Minister is still in control of things. But they have admitted that not only have their air bases been hit, that ballistic missiles have been used, and it's all on record. So what are they actually trying to boast about is still a question.
You see, this is always finding a scapegoat. Now, the one thing that if you tell the Prime Minister at 2:30 at night that the missile is coming to our airfield, it only goes to say, oh, we're trying our best, but you better be responsible for all that's happening. You have not been able to deal with the Indian government. That's the point that I wanted to make. But more importantly, Madhav, today, he has made himself the Field Marshal. People say he will not retire. He will not retire at all. This Field Marshal is going to stay in power for many years to come. The problem is, and which is what is worrying actually, that with him at the helm of affairs in Pakistan, terrorism is going to go far beyond what it is today. And that is the worry. He's been hit very badly because of the terrorist incident that he himself engineered at Pulwama. His post those dates, if you look at it, his address to the nation on the 14th or 15th, then the meeting at Ravla Court, and this happening on the 22nd. It's all connected. And he is the principal architect of this. Therefore, I fear that this fellow, who is an outright jihadi as General Sani said, comes from a stream which is Jihadi stream, non-English speaking, and educated at madrasa, is only going to think about how to engineer another massive terrorist incident.
Let me bring in Gaurav on that.
Got to be careful about.
Yeah. Yeah, Gaurav Arya, I want you to come in on that as well, because, at the end of the day, here's a person who is 57 years old. He's already Field Marshal. He may get a number of extensions. I don't know how the system works in Pakistan, but I don't think there's even a system, in that sense. And, his views which have been expressed already in the public domain, they're all out there. And we know what kind of radical fundamentalist views this person is sharing in the public domain. He's not going to take this kind of insult that has been heaped at him, and quite rightly so, by the Indian Armed Forces. He will try and make the Pakistan Army and the Air Force regroup. The question is, how long will that take?
So, Madhav, first of all, whatever General Munir said, it is not radical just because we think it is radical. What he said was the basis of how Pakistan was formed, the two-nation theory. And he was just repeating what every Pakistani believes in. He was just repeating what every Pakistani reads about in school. It is their history. And the two-nation theory basically says that Hindus and Muslims cannot live together, because if they do, there will be bloodshed and there'll be chaos and there'll be anarchy, etc., etc. I'm oversimplifying the issue, but the fact of the matter is this is pretty much what it is. And what General Munir said is what every Pakistani child is taught in Pakistan studies. Now, having said that, you see, Madhav, what is happening in Pakistan today, very honestly, like Abhijit very rightly said, they reinforce failure. And it's a wonderful information warfare mechanism that they have in place. The only problem is that information warfare should be across the border. They should direct it at India. Unfortunately, they direct it at their own people. Right? And they managed to convince, because this is a nation that has only seen bad news, heard only bad news, except for maybe the 1992 World Cup victory, in which Imran Khan was the captain of the cricket team. They've always traditionally heard bad news for the past 78 years. They haven't had very many wins. So when you don't have wins, how do you motivate the people? You lie about it. You structure a win out of thin air. So these people are word magicians. That is what ISPR. I was telling somebody, and that gentleman, very senior officer, a veteran of the Indian Army, I said, sir, Pakistan is only one strike corps, and it is the ISPR. You see, that is their only functional, you can call it a strike corps for all that matters, because that is what ISPR takes over as soon as operations start. The rest of the people may not fight. ISPR will take over, and ISPR will concoct stories, and suddenly, out of thin air, Pakistan has won. So, just take 30 seconds more with your permission, Madhav.
Yeah.
On the day India launches Operation Sindoor and Pakistani terrorist locations are, attacked, whether it is Bahawalpur or whether it is Muridke, etc., across 9 locations, it is Pakistanis who are uploading the video on the internet. The ones that we showed on Times Now were not something that was shot by Times Now reporters. These were Pakistanis uploading the damage caused in their locations near the terror hideouts where they lived, right? But look at the Pakistani nation. Nobody is asking, and there might be any number of reasons for it, all right? But no Pakistani even dares ask their army that you are saying that you have defeated India, you are saying that you have downed 5 Rafale, please show us a single photograph. If you have hit Indian air bases, please show us one satellite image. There is no image to show. They show video games.
True.
And the people know that these are video games, and they're so desperate for a win. The Pakistani people are so desperate for a win that they'll believe a video game, but they'll not believe that their side is lost, because it's just simply too much to comprehend and absorb.
True. Let me just bring in Abhijit now. Abhijit, the question is this: Operation Sindoor is still on. The question is that at this point of time, we're in a high state of preparedness to take on anything that comes on from Pakistan side and give a befitting reply. The larger question is, how long are we going to watch like this at the border? We saw what happened when it came to Operation Parakram. Days became weeks became months, and then years, and so on and so forth. Are we going to look at a situation like that when it comes to India and Pakistan? Are we going to be able to exert, for instance, enough diplomatic pressure to turn the screws on Pakistan? How are you looking at all of this playing out in coming years? Because here you have a person who has just been promoted to Field Marshal and is going to be around for quite a considerable time.
So what I see this is as a strategy of permanent tension across every single board and theatre. Parakram was at a time when we didn't have that much money. We'd just come out of an economic crisis just 10 years back in 1991 and things like that. Today, we are nowhere near that situation. Our armed forces are also much more advanced. The thinking within the armed forces advanced very significantly. You don't actually need troops at the border. You're willing to escalate to air power. In South Asia, air power is seen as highly escalatory. You're willing to escalate to air power very, very quickly. So think of this as a sort of a highly flexible Operation Parakram, where you don't actually need forces at the border, but it continues to be high tension. Now, the real worry is that Asim Munir is now under severe pressure because his failures, people in Pakistan who really know, they know what's happened. He will most possibly carry out a terror strike sometime in the near future, at which time India will go in again. These hostilities will begin again. We are prepared for that. We are holding in that position, which is why we said it's an operational pause and nothing more. And there is, of course, the other pressure. This kind of operational readiness impacts Pakistani hardware very severely. It impacts Pakistani finances, of which they have none, very severely. There is the Indus Water Treaty withholding, which, if we continue to action it, will again affect what little they have very severely. So it is multi-spectral, all-domain strategy of permanent tension.
Right. Abhijit Mitra, Major Gaurav Arya, Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad and Lieutenant General Arun Sani, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and breaking this down for our viewers, particularly at such a sensitive time. What does this move in Pakistan really mean for India, and what can we expect in coming days as well? Those are some of the important questions that you've managed to answer this evening. Thanks so much for joining us indeed.